Hello everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the GW2 lore summary. This time we're in the Wayfarer Foothills. Before I start this, I just wanted to note that I didn't find that much linking to Guild Wars 1. So, if you guys have found anything in particular, let me know. I have found something really cool, and there are some other things I'm going to tie in, which I'll explain. So, yeah, apologies, it might be a bit shorter than normal, but there will definitely be more in some of the other areas, so I guess it's to be expected, really. I'll explain that shortly anyway, but for now I think best to start off with the in-game description for this area. So the Norn around Holbrook have established the Wayfarer Foothills as their primary hunting grounds. Further north there lies a treacherous landscape of frozen fields and icy crags corrupted by the sons of Svanir, Norn who revere the elder dragon Jormag, which is specifically up here they're talking about, and Svanir's name. Right, now it's the first area that new Norn characters will recognise and will have been into. So if any of you are playing Norns or are thinking of, then this is the area. It's to the east and northeast of Holbrook, which you can see down here, which is the Norn capital, if you will. And it's kind of renowned for its shrines to the four spirits of the wild. Now I won't go to them just because it doesn't really link in with the Guild Wars 1 stuff they wanted to do, and you've probably, well, it's low level renown hearts, I'm sure loads of you have been there. If not, you'll do them very quickly, but it's yeah, you've got the spirits of the bear, the raven, the snow leopards, and the wolf, which is down here. And now, so they're obviously quite important sacred places, and they're mainly threatened by the dredge down here and Sons of Svanir. And there's some gruel in there, but it's, yeah, Sons of Svanir in the corrupted areas. So, in terms of, that's kind of the overview and how it stands in Guild Wars 2. You know, it's kind of the land that the Norn have been pushed down from their original homeland up in the far Shiver Peaks, or at least where they were in the Eye of the North. But it's a good example of how locations have altered since Guild Wars 1. This area was originally inaccessible in Guild Wars 1. It was kind of greyed out. Now there were other regions that kind of tagged onto the very bottom and the very top of it, which I'll explain in a second, but that was part of the reason I found it difficult to link things to it. Because there was nothing there at the time, and you could never tell what was in those grey areas for definite. So, however, like I say, by comparing its location to Guild Wars 1, you can find out that the southern portion around here, more around here, but it would have been up to here, would have been the Mineral Springs, which I'll go into shortly. I'll go into all of these, shortly. The northern area would have been Yak's Bend, which will be well known in Yakita's soil, which will be well known to some of you if you played the first game, and Traveller's Vale. Now, you know, there are hints here. Arundel Vale, Solitude Vale, you know, this is a Vale kind of area. It would be here anyway, so this is just what Traveller's Vale has become, kind of. And also a place called the Ascalon Foothills. Now there's a place called the Arcovian Foothills down here. There's a chance that could represent it, and it would make sense seeing as Ascalon is here. So it's obviously along here somewhere. It could be there, any of this kind of area. So yeah, before I go into the really cool thing I found because I just wanted to explain those areas a bit because, like I say, a lack of things to lack it in for. So to link it into, sorry. So Yak's Bend and Traveller's Vale I'll go into more with the Frostgorge Sound area, but essentially Yak's Bend was a village in the northern Shiver Peaks named for the various yak herds that could be found there. It's pretty much the last safe haven you'd come across before Kryta, with the exception of the Deldrimore dwarves, who, without going into it too much depth, which I do need to do, it's they were essentially the good dwarves. And then you had the Stone Summit, who they were in civil war with, who were very xenophobic and believed in the superiority of dwarves, and very mistrustful of other races. And they were kind of an enemy you fought, you know. So it was a really interesting location to come to in the game, Yak's Bend, just because of the fact that it was this kind of, you felt like you were moving into this next section of the game. You know, you're finally leaving Ascalon, which you spent so much of the game for, and enemies were getting tougher and more variety, and it was good. But like I say, I'll go into that more for Frostgorge Sound. Traveller's Vale. That was the region kind of adjoining to Yak's Bend. It was the main path used for people trying to cross the Shirt Peaks. That was essentially what it was, hence the Travellers part of it. And it was patrolled by Stone Summit Dwarves, who I explained, and it had a lot of territory there. The Ascalon Foothills. Now, this was kind of like I can go into this because this was, well, assuming it's around this area. It was a kind of a small area. There wasn't really much going on. You went through there really to get to Yak's Bend. That's the main reason you went through it. It was kind of interesting because it was the first area, I think, that, for me at least, I kind of felt the enemy kind of difficulty stepping up, notably. Because you had elementals, which were okay and you dealt with, but they also had hydras, which were like three-headed drakes, and they had a skill called Meteor, which would knock you down, and it was just, did a lot of damage. It was just, it was fine, but it was something to get used to. And if you were to try and solo run it, it was challenging. Which is why people, for example, would run from a place called Ascalon City, with humans at the time, and would run to Yak's Bend, as it was kind of the next place to get. People would pay them to do that. So it was quite a tough area early on. So the other area was Mineral Springs. Now this, like I say, it's down here really, but it could have come into this area quite easily. And I mean, the fact they have where is it, up here, some Warm Spring Grotto, which actually got a shite ton of spiders in, but you know, there's naturally occurring springs around this area. You'd kind of expect that anyway. So it was a really cool area. It was a trek to get to, because the nearest outpost was a place down here, which I'm looking forward to showing you in a later video, but Granite Citadel. But you had to go through another explorable area and then into Mineral Springs and then get wherever you need to go to in that, because in the first game you didn't have waypoints. It was just outposts or cities. So yeah, it was a kind of a high level area. There were lots of elite skills to capture from the bosses there. So when you were going for the title to capture skills, or if you want a particular skill, you'd have to work your way through there. But it was challenging, but it was also really fun. So it was good. It was good in that sense. There was a few really interesting things about the area. They had a cave which had a statue to Lyssa, which was the kind of the Mesmer, the god of illusion, that I was describing in the last video briefly. And if you kept going through that cave, there was a view that overlooked a lake, and close to there was a creature called a seer, and you had to go to that creature as part of a mission to get your armor infused. So it'll be quite complicated to explain, so it would take another video really, but it's basically, as part of the story, that was a required step you had to go through to be able to fight the Mursat, or the unseen gods of the White Mantle, because they had this skill called Spectral Agony, which would just like DPS you to shit. It was just ridiculous. And I don't know if that links into the Agony and Fractals, but it was the same kind of idea, I think. It just dotted your health down, and infused was the way that you could actually deal with that. It would still do damage, quite a bit of damage, but you could cope with it then. So that was kind of cool. And the seers, this is the only seer you come across, and the only one I've heard of mentioned since. They're a really mysterious race. All I know about them is they were like kind of locked in a war with the Mursat. So that's something that I'm sure will be gone into in greater detail. But it's really interesting. So that would be, I'm looking forward to that. But now onto basically the main link I found for definite. This is, the others were a bit kind of vague. And not really sure. But yeah, now there's this point of interest called the Frozen Moor, and there's also an event called the Frozen Moor. I didn't really realise the significance of it at first, and then I did a bit of reading up on it. There was a boss in the first game called Moor the Mountain Heart, and it was kind of cool because it was random where he appeared. Now there was one area, I think, where Dredgewant Cliffs is now, or something like that, down here somewhere, but he would appear more frequently. But basically it was random. He could appear in Mineral Springs, for example, anywhere in the southern Shiver Peaks, but there was no guarantee, not like the other bosses which had kind of set spawns and things. So it was kind of random when you got it. It was quite rare to find him, and I thought that would be the end of it, just having that boss in there. But this is supposedly the location of his or presumably at least the location of his frozen corpse. Now I'll show you in a second, but there is a Sons of Svanir homestead here, obviously the point of interest, and there was also an event, like I said, called the Frozen Moor. Interesting about the event is the ice elemental, which is being summoned, is very similar to. It looks similar to the mouth of a frostworm, which was what Moor the Mountain Heart was. He was a giant frostworm. So yeah, there's kind of a hint to it there. Also, this area is called the Worm's Gullet here, which would suggest, well, as you'll probably notice, actually, you fight a lot of frostworms around here, but it would suggest that there was something significant about this area in terms of those creatures. So yeah, I think I'll run in there and show you. You can't really see anything that necessarily links it to this, but it's kind of cool, and it's interesting that well, which way do I go? That way. That the Sons of Svanir have located a homestead here. I mean, is that coincidence, or is that a deliberate thing? Were they drawn to that area for some reason? The fact that there was this kind of big bad boss thing. I'm just going to run in because I can't be asked to fight, and it will just add to the video, and I probably won't be able to commentate. So I'm just going to flash in and stuff. Flash back out again. But this is basically the area. There's a skill point. Oh god. I'll try and look back if I can. Yeah, I mean, it looks like a ridge. It could also almost be like a ridge of backbone of a worm of some kind or something. But this is supposedly the location of it anyway, and you can see that kind of lodge covered over there. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting. And you can see worms there, you see loads of them. That was kind of a location that Sons of Svanir popped up in, so yeah, something of interest, might be of interest to some of you anyway. So anyway, sorry for the video being a bit shorter than usual. I still managed to ramble a fair bit, I think. But if you guys have any other things I've missed out from that, let me know, and I can edit it in or something. So take care, thank you very much for watching as always, and I will see you soon. Bye!